Hello, Omar.
Yeah, hello.
How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine. Is it evening or afternoon?
It's exactly 5 o'clock, so we're in the twilight zone.
Oh, I see. See.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, Justice. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Yes. Could be any one of those.
All of the above. Do you have a slide deck you're gonna, excuse me, a slide deck you're gonna be presenting today, or are we doing just a free form?
There is a slide deck, but it's basically two slides. I
Oh,
think
okay.
Sandy has more content than I do.
Okay.
My slide deck is basically, oh wait, is this even the right one? I forgot to update the date here. Hang on.
When you
Do
have
you
a
want me to send
second,
this to you afterwards?
yeah, that way
I
I can
think,
just put it in the notes.
yeah. I do have a few that I haven't sent, so I should probably send you all of them.
We should just have a Google Drive that they're always in, and that way you don't have to
Yes.
send it. So,
I know where that is too. So
yes.
let me dump them in there, and then we can. Then
Yeah,
I don't
perfect.
have to send you anything and clutter up your mailbox.
I appreciate that. Yes.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Colin. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Colin.
Hi Greg. Hi Ben.
Hello, Sandy.
And,
And hello, Matt.
Hello, how's it going?
All right,
Hi.
thank you. How are you?
Good.
I'm going to try to not do a lot of talking today because I sound terrible.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of a cold on my travels as well.
yeah, it's going around.
Yeah, Greg, I see you are the only one without glasses.
I can fix that. I wear my computer glasses.
There
There.
we go.
It's probably a sign of, that we're all over 40, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just keep my camera off then.
Yes, Oli does not have glasses. We can infer that he is perhaps not yet 40.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll kick us off. I think if anybody else falls in, they can catch up. Um, some the ubiquitous antitrust policy notice. If you have concerns about the antitrust policy, please contact your attorneys. If you are a member of the Linux Foundation, feel free to contact the Linux Foundation's attorneys. This is part of all of our presentations, so you can always read this in the slide deck afterwards. Very quickly, we are going to just quickly give you an update of the status of Tazama 3.0. You may recall that we had recently released Tazama 2.2.0, which was our release to clear the deck ahead of the 3.0 release. So I'll just give everybody a status update on that. And then we want to revisit our audit event logging. We had brought it to the TSC previously and we discussed it. There were some outstanding issues in detail that we needed to resolve, which we have now believe we have resolved. So we just want to play that back to the technical steering committee meeting, and then if everybody's comfortable with it, we'd like to move forward with that approach. On the Tazama 3.0 update, the development on multi-tenancy is complete this week. We have rebuilt successfully the full stack with multi-tenancy built into Keycloak. That can now be deployed. It's currently still sitting in a feature branch while we complete our testing. But if anybody has the inclination, you can look at it in the feature branch. We've done the end-to-end test, so that seems to be working. We now have to do the exhaustive integration functionality and unit testing around all of the components. There's a little bit of refactoring that we need to do for all of our postman tests to integrate the tenant ID into a lot of the script functions that we built in Postman. We hope to have that testing done either by the end of this week, if everything goes well, or Monday latest. There's quite a lot of pressure on this piece of work because it needs to be completed and merged before we can move on to the integration and the testing of the ArangoDB to PostgreSQL migration. That development is underway, I want to say, but it's practically done. It's just waiting for the multi-tenancy piece of work to get out of the way so that it can then also be merged and integrated. So as soon as multi-tenancy is done, then we'll be integrating the ArangoDB migration stuff as well. And then that will bring us to our next release. So we'll be planning and packing our release 3.0, which will be then a major feature update and a end-to-end breaking change for Tazama. We are still in a fairly sort of let's call it a low user environment, but we are seeing a lot of interest from a variety of different sources. So having Tazama 3.0 out there without having somebody actually using any of the versions yet seems a bit strange, but because this update itself is a major overhaul, and in particular the database itself is completely changed, we thought it would be appropriate to actually release it as a completely new and separate version this time around. And then I'm going to thankfully hand over to Sandy so that I don't have to speak anymore. Sandy, if you wouldn't mind maybe just giving us an overview of the audit event logging, and then I'll stop sharing so that you can take it over. If I can find that button.
Sure. Thanks, Justice.
Thanks, everyone. Just maybe
yeah.
before I go, anybody have any questions about the release 3.0?
No.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, Sandy, over to you.
Right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Not your presentation, though. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. Thanks, Justice. So starting with our current state, at the moment in Tazama, we have system logging, but no audit logging functionality. To date, we haven't had any user interface type features that have required audit logging. But given that we have new features currently under development, such as case and investigation management, the Connection Studio and Rules Studio, these components with UI, user interface interaction with the system will definitely be requiring audit logging, making it pressing for us to define the principles and requirements that we would like to see in Tazama audit logging. So the strategic value is making sure that we create an immutable record that will enable compliance investigations and us to comply with regulatory requirements. The key features of audit logs that we're wanting to make sure we implement is non-repudiation. So at no point can users deny having performed an action. They must be unable to be altered once written. We need to capture all critical actions, and each action must be traceable either to a system or to a specific actor, as in a user. Some of the examples of the events that we want to capture in audit logs is login and log out, both success and failure. And then the creation, update, and delete of records, be that cases, messages, tasks, etc. And then read, so view actions, so read access to sensitive data. So if somebody views something That would be an example of an audit log that we may want to keep. Changes to user roles or permissions, any kind of overrides, and then system configuration changes. So those are just some of the examples of events that we would want to capture in audit logs. We are making the assumption that the details of what must be logged for each of the new features and components that are being designed and built in Tazama now will be specified in detail in the requirements specification for those components. So the intention for this overview is to define some of the key principles that would cover audit logging in Tazama, starting with deployment. So wanting to pick a solution that can be deployed in the cloud or on premises in containers with open source licensing. A key principle around access control is to have role-based access control via Tazama authentication service. And then for multi-tenancy, having just implemented that new feature, any audit logging must be differentiated by tenant. Then a key principle that needs to apply is atomicity. Then from an integrity point of view, we're wanting tamper evident rather than tamper proof being really expensive and difficult to achieve options. So through hashing or digital signatures, being able to see if there's any evidence that audit trails have been tampered with. We're wanting a scalable solution with high write throughput. And from a performance point of view, we're wanting to make sure that whatever solution we implement has the least impact on any real-time processing components. Then standards, so all of the key regulatory standards, we wanted to make sure that our audit logging would comply with those standards. Then on the reporting and analytics side, intending not to have or make essential use of functionality inside of audit logging for reports and analytics, but rather to export all audit logs into the business intelligence and analytical reporting module for later reporting and analytics. With regards to that reporting and analytics environment, the Lakehouse integration as a key principle will be via batch. And so not looking to pursue real-time integration into the Lakehouse. And then lastly, as a key principle, anomaly detection around audit trails. The intention would be to ingest audit trail data into Tazama, and for any anomaly detection to be using the functionality core Tazama evaluation functionality. Let me pause there. If there are any questions or comments on the key principles that we've outlined for audit logging?
Maybe just a call out from me. So you would have noticed that we are not audit logging the evaluation stream. We made that decision due to the amount of overhead required to basically audit log everything that we are receiving to be evaluated, and also the impact that it will have on the evaluations themselves. In particular, the audit logging principle says that you must have confirmed audit logging before you can continue with your actual process, because you can't continue with the process if you don't have a confirmed audit log for the action. You can't actually allow the action, which means that if we are audit logging the real-time evaluation stream, we will be adding a unavoidable and inevitable delay before we even start the evaluation. So to be able to maintain performance and also to be able to reduce costs to a certain extent, because if we are audit logging everything that we are evaluating, and that is also the bulk of the data in the platform that is then being duplicated for the audit logs, we've decided that we will not be audit logging system-to-system submissions for evaluation purposes. At the moment, we are focusing only on the user functions. So where a user is interacting with the system, that user's interaction with the system will be logged. It is going to be lower volume, and it is also going to be slower. So it's technically feasible.
Maybe just a quick add here, and this might be before most of your time with Mojaloop, which but Mojaloop and Miller in particular had some exceedingly clear thinking about this with respect to Mojaloop, and I think that documentation almost certainly still exists and would be useful to the team on making sure their thinking was as complete as possible.
Matt, I did reference all of the Mojaloop research and looked into the evaluation of technical options, as well as reviewed and incorporated. I actually used the Mojaloop requirements document as a starting point for
Perfect.
the audit logging product guidance that I put together.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
It's also been quite a hot topic in the Mojaloop forum. I can't my brain is mush. I can't remember what it's called. The DA, the Design Authority. So I think over the last couple of months, it's been very hotly debated, and I think Mojaloop themselves are also driving now towards an actual auditing solution and implementation. So I think it's a good time for us to also move ahead.
Very good.
Right, if there are no other questions, moving ahead, looking at what to log, the key attributes that each audit log entry must include is obviously a timestamp, a user or system ID, the event that is being logged, an affected resource, so is it a case ID, an account ID, a transaction ID, where possible, source IP addresses or device IDs, the application or service name, whether it was a success or a failure, the actual status change if a state is involved, and the value before the change, the value post the change, and then, as we mentioned, also tenant ID. And then lastly, just to mention some assumptions, I've already mentioned the first one around the actual what to log for each of the features will be specified in the BRS documents. So this has, for case and investigation management, already been specified in a huge amount of detail in that BRS. We did note the assumption around the decision on encryption would be deferred to the decisions for the whole platform. So we're not going to be making a decision now on encryption on audit trails independent of the overall decisions around encryption for the platform. Then thirdly, Justice just mentioned the fact that we're not audit logging handoff between systems, but focusing on user action, and there the note specifically about not audit logging Tazama evaluations. This may seem obvious, but we can only log information that is available in Tazama, which means that reference to something like device ID, if it's not obtained and not available in the data package, we won't be able to log it. But what this does mean is there may be some knock-on new requirements for us to source and ingest additional data for logging purposes. And then the last assumption is just we can only create audit logs for functionality where Tazama has direct control. So for example, should we want to report on external components such as authentication, key cloak, we would need, for analytical and reporting purposes, to ingest those logs into the lakehouse separately for analysis and reporting. That was everything that I had prepared. So if there are any questions at this point?
Yeah, Sandy, I have a question. I need clarification on when you talk about device ID. What are you actually referring to? Is it the IMEI number of the device or the IP address? Is there any specific thing you're looking for in the audit login of the device ID? Thank you.
Yeah, it could be either of those. So if it's a mobile device, you know, it would be that specific reference number. As I mentioned, the detailed requirements we would need to look at in the BRS. So the purpose of this product guidance document was to highlight some of the key things that we would want to audit log. And if at all possible, there was a device ID or any way of logging how or where a transaction originates, we would want to include that detail in the actual audit log.
For example, 8583 has a device for each swiping unit. So that device would come through.
Okay, okay, thank you.
I maybe also just want to revisit something that we had discussed on previously when we were talking about the audit logging. We'd originally proposed to do this via a sidecar, but the sidecar implementation pattern doesn't give us the synchronicity of an audit log update. So what the sidecar typically does is it's a fire and forget mechanism. So you don't get confirmation that your audit log was actually written. So what we are proposing to deliver instead is a audit logging library that would then be embedded into the code that needs to perform the audit logging, so that that write of an audit log can be done synchronously, and the program that calls the function must then wait for a response, a confirmed write of the audit log, before the user's action can be fulfilled. So that, I think, is just one change from the implementation that we were proposing the last time.
Okay, okay, thank you.
All right, Justice, back to you if there are no further questions on audit logging.
Sure. I also have nothing else on my agenda. I don't know if there's anything from the floor. If anybody would like to raise something or talk to us about anything, now is the time. Otherwise, we'll have a short session today and carry on with our day.
Oh,
don't know if
yeah, I
should do
wanted
a
to
countdown.
mention.
Oh, mate, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something. Currently, we're in partnership with Zenith Bank in Nigeria, and we've been in talks on how to deploy our own payment gateway. And recently, I was in Ghana, and we want to get in talks with MTN Momo.
Great.
This kind of the mobile money transaction. And at the end of the whole thing, we want to leverage heavily on Tazama. You know, this fraud kind of a thing is dominant in Nigeria and also in Ghana. And a lot of people are complaining. And the feedback we had to do, we did the market research, and the feedback we got was that we need to implement something to prevent fraud. And so I've been brainstorming on how to approach it, and seeing that Tazama has moved from 0.10 to 20 to 30. A lot has changed. And so for us as a company, what would you propose, or how would you suggest we approach this? Because we are launching two products. One is ZNP and the other one is Cash App. You know, there's Cash App in the US, but this our own is Cash App. The Cash App will run on the mobile money platforms, and then ZNP will run on the local bank platforms. So what do you suggest for us, and how do you suggest we approach this so we can get to writing code? Thank you.
I think that's a conversation we should probably have with you directly, Ome. I'd like to understand a little bit more about the nature of your implementation and also the requirement. Tazama, unfortunately, as a maturing product, is always going to evolve based on customer requirements and also the way that technology evolves. So we are perhaps in a slightly more volatile stage of our life cycle now. But I mean, we find ourselves in a bit of a difficult position where customers would like to have the features that we are currently working on, but we don't necessarily want them to tell them to wait. But then
Yeah.
if we don't wait for the features to be delivered, then there's a chance that you may actually end up doing an implementation twice, because you need to implement the current version of Tazama, and then we make such big changes that upgrading to the new version is almost a new implementation altogether. So I think it would be useful if we had a chat, just to understand what the scope and the nature of your implementation is there, and then it might be easier for us to help you find the way.
All right. Then.
Colin has
Ome,
thankfully volunteered to coordinate a meeting. Thank you, Colin.
yeah, Ome, I've just shared my email address on the chat. Let me assist, maybe, and coordinate a conversation between ourselves with Justice and the team.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just drop me a note on that email that I've shared, and then we'll take it from there.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ome.
Yeah.
Anything from anyone else today? Sold. Sorry, Matt, just as I was about to close the call. Did you?
I was just saying, not me. So yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.